First off, I want to thank the brave men and women who work behind the wall. I want to thank them on a national level because their job goes unrecognized.
How do they try to turn a guard?
Well, correctional officer. Sorry, I apologize. But correctional officer. How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi, host of Tear Talk. Got a great question sent our way from one of our new subscribers. Now, she has a loved one that's locked up, and she's saying, Gangi, what advice would you give to an inmate or someone that's locked up so they can create a good working relationship with the officers that they encounter? It's a great question, very balanced question, something we never covered before. So I'm going to provide a little insight, but I'm also going to have three of my experts come on as well, and they're going to discuss their perspective. And each perspective is going to be a little bit unique. But again, you take what you can. You take what you can, and hopefully with what we provide, there's something that you can utilize. Now, I have Gary Cornelius. Gary Cornelius, a little bit about him. He's a retired lieutenant out of Fairfax County, is an author. He wrote a lot of books relating to the correctional system, relating to how the system works, but also us, stress, mental well-being, our health. My personal favorite book of his is Art of the Con. It covers a lot, including inmate manipulation. I'm also going to have Russ Hamilton. We see him on my shows before. He's a retired sergeant from the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, and his knowledge is very vast. I mean, he can pretty much talk about anything related to corrections. I even gave him his own little playlist. And I also have Keith Hellwig. Keith Hellwig that's my man. He's out of Wisconsin. He's a retired captain for the state correction system there. And he also has his own little YouTube channel, by the way. It's called Cops and Corrections. You guys should check it out. I put a link to the description below. So after I give my insight, I'm going to then pass over the video to them, and they're going to provide their insight. And hopefully we get to learn something from these experts in the field. I mean, this is great to be able to ask a question and provide a perspective that is very rarely heard. That's the key. And that's why I'm privileged to have a channel like this, and also to have the resources that I have. So stand by for our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to talk about advice that we would give to someone who's locked up to help them have that professional relationship, that working relationship with the officers they encounter. Now, guys, if you haven't, the show's Tear Talk, so please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. That bell's going to notify you every time I post up a video. Stand by for our sponsor. Thank you guys for listening to our sponsor. I got a few things I'm going to mention. I don't want to mention too much because I also have Gary that's going to talk about communication. Russ is going to talk about hanging out with the wrong people, basically also doing your time wisely. And Keith's going to cover a couple of different topics. And again, Keith has over 30 years of experience in corrections on all levels of corrections. He was an officer all the way up to a captain. So here's a few tips that I'm going to provide. Work with the system, not against the system. You have to remember, officers represent the system. They're meant to enforce the rules and regulations. So if you try to manipulate the system, if you try to go around the system, break the system, that's going to put you in automatic conflict with the officers that are supervising you. So work with the system. If you work with the system, you're working with the officers, and they can do their job effectively, and you could also kind of coexist in peace. So again, number one advice, work with the system. Don't challenge the system. Remember, guys, officers do have to enforce the rules and regulations because it's what keeps things consistent, fair, and firm. That's the key. Officers have to be fair, firm, and consistent. So the rules are put in play for a reason. Now, certain officers with experience, they may develop a sense of discretion, so they know maybe sometimes there's a chance where you may have to bend a little but never break. But again, those are for officers or for civilian staff that have a bit more experience, and they're looking at the context of the situation. But for the most part, you stay firm, fair, and consistent. Those rules are put in place for a reason. You don't want to break those rules. You don't want to bend those rules. And at the end of the day, that's what keeps everything fair. Because remember, if one inmate asks for a rule bend, what's to stop another inmate from asking for that rule bend? So again, work with the system. Do not try to get personal with the officers. Don't do it. Keep the relationship professional. They're not going to tell you their business. That's not what they're there for. But they're there to answer any questions that you have in regards to what's needed in that environment that you're in. So if you have questions about your stay or something that's work-related, they will answer that. Civilian staff will also answer that. But don't ask them personal questions. How many kids you got? Are you married? It's not your business. So don't ask. The other thing I want to mention is read the inmate handbooks. Read the rules and regulations. If you have trouble understanding it, you can go to someone, go to an officer, or go to the supervisor of education, whatever you have to do. But understand those rules and regulations. You got to know what the facility expects from you. You also have to know the differences between rights and privileges. There are certain things that officers cannot touch, but there are certain things that they can. And the reason why you have privileges is in order for officers to maintain control, there has to be something that you value that they can take away. No different than you would do to a kid on the streets. And then you have to make an effort to earn it back. People are more motivated by a loss than a gain. So the key here is if you do something wrong, these are things that the officers can take from you. And now you're going to have to earn it back. And again, being familiar with that handbook will help you navigate a very professional relationship with the officer, because now you're working within the established rules and regulations of that facility. I always talk about respect. Yes, respect does go both ways. We know that. But respect the people in your unit. Respect the officer that's supervising the unit. If the officer directs you to do something, as long as it's not unethical, do it. Do it. Keep yourself busy. There's programming available. There is work available. Take advantage of it. The last thing you want to do is be idle inside a prison or a jail. You want to keep your time productive. You want to keep your time busy. Believe it or not, work is part of rehabilitation. So if you can get yourself out of the unit for a while and have a job, that's great. If you get yourself into some program, that's even better. Because believe it or not, guys, when you're in prison or jail, a lot of people look at it as it's a dead end. It's not. It's a chance to turn around and begin again. And that's why the program's in place. Programs are in place to correct what needs to be corrected. But first, you have to take responsibility for your actions. And then you can choose what programs that best suit you. And if you can't figure that quite out yet, we have resources in the prison or jails that can help you figure that out. They can say, okay, you know what, right now it looks like you need these things. And take advantage of these programs. Because you never know what you're going to wind up getting from these programs. Trust me, guys, these programs can change lives. But the thing is, we also can't force people to change. At the end of the day, if you're not willing to take programs for the right reasons, then that's on you. Because we have to worry about the many. So if we're spending so much time focusing on the one, trying to get them to make the change, then we're missing out on the many who are ready to make that change. So go in there with that mindset that you're looking to make a change. Know exactly what needs to be fixed, what needs to be worked on, and find the program that you feel best suits your needs. There should be all types of programming, from parenting to therapeutic programming to transitional program. What can I do once I get released? Take advantage of these programs. And the point is you want to leave better than what you were coming in. That's the key. All right, guys, so that's my advice. Again, but the key here is working with the system, because everything I just mentioned really deals with working with the system. Don't work against the system. And remember, the officers that are supervising you, they represent the system. So if you try to manipulate or break the system, that's a hit on them, and they're not going to allow that. They're not going to allow that. And that's the initial conflict. All right, Gary, what do you got?
My name is Lieutenant Gary F. Cornelius. I retired from the Fairfax County Adult Detention Center in Fairfax, Virginia after 27 years of service. I had assignments in working post, or what we call floors, classification, community corrections. I was programs director for a number of years, and my last assignment was classification. Today's theme is all about respect. And if you think of respect, starts with thinking of someone else and not yourself. I met a lot of good inmates that I would hope would stay out of jail. And some of them did. And what I noticed was a common theme of they respected the staff, they tried to get along with the staff, they did not manipulate, they didn't use street tactics to do their time, they knew where they were, and they gave the staff the respect. And I think that's an important first step. many inmates are not capable of doing respect. They've lived their lives outside of the norm, and some are not. I've met some inmates who are mature and want to get along, but some of them bring the street behavior into the jail, and it just causes trouble for them. To get respect, you have to do several things, I think, in my view. You have to give respect to the staff. Corrections officers are people. Just all people have concerns, bills to pay, families, and so forth. But the majority of the correctional staff are good people. And I do a lot of in-service training. And in my research, and I feel that corrections has gotten better at weeding out the garden and getting rid of the staff that mistreat inmates, use excessive force. I've read where some correctional staff have gone to prison. They've been sued. The inmates have won because, like all professions, there are some bad apples, and I think we've gotten better at weeding them out. The second thing I think you have to do is look around. If you're an inmate, look around. You got 4 walls. That's it. Do you want to? You've dug yourself a hole. You're in a hole. Do you want to climb out? Your behavior dug the hole. I don't want to get into cliches like, you only have yourself to blame and so forth. You've committed a crime. You've dug the hole. Do you want to get out of the hole? And the nice thing about corrections is that we offer programs. We offer people that can help you get clean, get sober, get an education, all these things that you need, and change your way of thinking. All these things you need helps you get out of the hole. Third, take stock of your life. Do you want to do life on the installment plan? I had one inmate tell me that did a lot of time, and he was in his 50s, and he said, I'm just tired of coming in. I'm just tired of it. Do you want to reach that point? Or early on, do you want to take stock of your situation and say, hey, I've dug this hole, I got problems, I can change. For families and friends of loved ones who are locked up, please do all that you can to convince your loved one, your friend, your family member, him or her, that incarceration is not the way, and street tactics don't work. They only lead to trouble. Take this time and impress upon your loved one in jail that this can be the last time. If you're tired of going in, we're tired of coming to the jail and visiting you. And the last thing is to earn the chance through behavior and respect. Earn your way out. You're in a hole. You can climb out of the hole and never drop back in, but it's up to you. Thank you very much, Anthony, and the corrections community for letting me share this video. God bless you all. Be safe. Happy holidays.
Hi everybody, my name is Russ Hamilton. I'm a retired sergeant from California Department of Corrections. Anthony Gangi from Tier Talk asked me to drop this quick word on you. And Anthony was basically asking me this question: what advice would you give to an inmate that wanted to stay out of trouble and just do his time? So what I came up with, what I tried to distill that down to, if I was talking to an inmate about this, would be basically just do not make yourself vulnerable. Now, there's a few things that I can say about that to flesh that out, but in essence, it comes down to don't be hanging out with the wrong crowd. Don't be involving yourself with the gangs or just anybody that's in there doing wild stuff. If they decide that they're having a drinking party, that kind of thing, just stay out of it. So don't hang out with the wrong crowd, no gangs, no wild guys. Don't be accepting or scoring dope or doing anything silly like that. Don't be drinking. Don't accept favors. Don't gamble. All of those things can make you vulnerable, and they can make it where you're vulnerable to the point where they can manipulate to do something that could really, really add to your time. So those are the don'ts. So now for a quick few do's. Do go to work and school every single day. Cooperate with staff. You know, they're there to help, believe it or not. They're going to point you in the right direction if you ever need it. Then thirdly, develop a plan for getting out. If you develop a plan, you break from your old habits, you develop good new habits, you actually stand a shot. So anyway, I hope someone out there will take this to heart. Anyway, all of my correctional buddies out there, stay safe. Have a great day.
This is Keith Hellwig from Cops Corrections Videos. If you like my videos, please hit the red subscribe button. I'm going to take a little different track today and talk about inmates and what inmates can do to make their time better. There's several tips, things that I may have learned over my 36 years of working in corrections before I retired as a captain. First bit of advice I would give to any inmate is to do your own time. It's nobody's business why you're in prison. It's nobody's business what you've done. It's really nobody's business about your family. Those people who need to know already do know. Don't ask other people why they're there. Don't expect other people to be forthcoming with information about why they're there. And you don't need to tell anybody why you're in prison. Do your own time. Another important thing that I want to remind people is don't lend anything out. If you're in prison, the stuff you have is your stuff. Don't lend it out to people. Don't borrow it out to people. For one thing, you're probably going to get in trouble if staff find out about it, which you don't need. And for another thing, you can pretty much count on probably 1 out of every 3 times you lend somebody something, you're not going to get it back. Also, don't borrow anything. No matter how much you're jonesing for that honey bun, no matter how much you're shaking for those ramen noodles, don't borrow them. You borrow that honey bun from somebody because you need a honey bun, they're going to expect you to pay them back 2 or 3 honey buns. So, comes canteen time and you decide you can't pay them back their honey buns, they're going to get their payment. And maybe that payment is going to be taking your honey bun, if you know what I mean. You don't need that. Don't borrow from anybody. Don't borrow to anybody. A big thing I want to say too is that respect is a two-way street. When you're dealing with officers, you can't automatically expect them to respect you, just as they can't automatically expect respect from you. Respect is something which is earned on both sides. It's earned by officers, it's earned by inmates. Now, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember the old Leave It to Beaver show, but there was a character on Leave It to Beaver named Eddie Haskell. Now, Eddie Haskell was the most royal ass kisser imaginable. If you ever get a chance to watch, you'll see what I'm talking about. Don't be an Eddie Haskell. You don't have to kiss ass to staff. You don't have to suck up to staff. If you do, the perception by staff is that you're going to be doing something to try to manipulate them. The perception by other inmates is that perhaps you're snitching. Now, on the subject of snitching, a lot of staff aren't going to like me telling you this. Don't be a snitch. If somebody steals something from you and it's minor, don't put yourself out there and be a snitch on the whole thing. Try to take care of it as peacefully as you can. Now, on the same hand, if you're in physical danger, or if you know of an incident where somebody's in physical danger, don't hesitate to drop an anonymous kite. I know I used to be an investigating lieutenant, and I'd get a lot of people that would snitch to me. And sometimes it was things that were worthwhile. I recall an incident where it would have resulted in the death of at least one officer had the inmate not came up and gave me the information. If it's information which is going to prevent somebody from being harmed or somebody being killed, drop an anonymous kite. Let somebody know about it. As correctional officers, we don't want to see anybody get hurt. We don't want to see inmates get hurt. We don't want to see staff get hurt. So while I'm telling you don't snitch, use common sense. And if it's going to involve danger to yourself or danger to others, perhaps it behooves you to tell somebody else about it. When you come to prison, there is an us versus them attitude. Officers versus inmates. As an inmate, don't be hostile to officers. Officers are there doing a job. Some of them do a good job, The majority of them do a good job. Some of them, to put it bluntly, are piss poor officers. I know it, and they know it. By being respectful and pleasant to officers, it doesn't mean you have to kiss their ass. But just remember, those officers can make your life miserable. As again, it's back to the old respect. The officer is there to do a job. It's not their job to mess with inmates. I always told the officers that worked under me when I was a captain that inmates are in prison as punishment. They're not in prison for punishment. It wasn't my job as a captain to make sure that they got the punishment they deserved, whatever that may be. They already received the punishment they deserved by being put in prison. As an inmate, you may not like officers. Officers may not like you. The fact of the matter is, you do have to coexist. You're going to be a part of each other's daily lives. In order to do that, you need to respect each other for what you are. You need to respect each other as human beings. You may not like that officer may not like you. But if you do in turn respect each other, that may make the coexistence you have with each other a little bit better. It may make your time a little easier. It may make their time a little easier. With that, stay safe, and until next time, watch your back.